Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Tap this ad to learn more about Tremfya, including important safety information.
We heard you. 9 years of Bring Back the Snack Wrap, and you've won. But maybe you should have asked for more. Say hello to the Hot Honey Snack Wrap. Now you've really won. Go to McDonald's and get it while you can.
Yes, I'm still here, Hollywood. Coming up on today's episode, he's one of those actors who didn't just play characters. He left scars. From the kind of performance that made audiences squirm in their seats to a long-running role that proved he could bring humor, intelligence, and a healthy dose of smarminess to even the most chaotic scenes. He's worked across film, television, directing and producing, often becoming the guy you remember most, even when he wasn't supposed to be the lead. This is Still Here Hollywood. I'm Steve Kmetko. Join me with today's guest from ER and Robocop, actor Paul McCrane. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Steve.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for
If you weren't
having
here,
me.
what would you be doing?
If I wasn't here, well, I'd be sleeping, probably. Sleeping
Really?
in.
This late in the day?
Not sleeping very well lately. I'd be taking a nap right now. Or I'd be cleaning my, we have a converted garage guest house that has become something of a storage space, and I need to clean that out. That's what I'd be doing right now.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Or prep. I have a guitar lesson, actually, right after this that I'm going to study. So,
No kidding.
I'm prepping for that, yeah.
Yeah, I read in the material about you that you are a songwriter.
Sometimes songwriter, maybe again songwriter. Once in future songwriter, I'll put it that way.
Well, you made quite a career, in part, by being a dick.
Yes, sir.
Was that a choice or like an accidental dick persona?
How interesting you asked that. Actually, here's what happened. I started acting when I was quite young, and in my early 20s, after having played a number of what were considered sensitive parts or fragile characters or that kind of thing, I got a little tired of going up for the same kinds of roles all the time in terms of film and television. In theater in New York, I would do a variety of different kinds of things, but film and television is very much a kind of brand flavor kind of world often, which I used to resent. But by the way, as an aside, I came to realize over time, this is such a frenetic, crazy business that if people remember you in anything, it's a compliment. So that's good. That's a nice thing. But in any case, in my 20s, I said to my reps, I don't want to go up for these roles anymore, the fragile people. I want to go up for bad guys. And they said I was crazy and that I was, that's a stupid idea and not to do it. But I started refusing auditions for the fragile, sensitive characters, and I got a couple of bad guy characters, and then I got kind of stuck in that. So, it's the nature of it.
Speaking of bad guys, Robocop.
Yes, sir.
One of your big hits.
Yes.
What did you think when you first read the script?
When I heard the title, I thought, oh, what kind of piece of shit is this going to be? Because I thought it was going to be some sort of cheesy, quasi-science fiction-y kind of thing. And I read the script, and I thought it was terrific. And Ed Neumeyer and Michael Miner did a great job with the script. It was what I thought is it had some depth, and it was a social commentary and had some philosophy and all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was really cool. And then I thought, frankly, that Paul Verhoeven enhanced that even more. So, yeah.
Was it a difficult shoot?
Not for me. I think it was a challenge for Paul. I can go right into a story about it if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay. So One of the things in terms of the social commentary that was really important to Paul was that the violence be really exaggerated throughout. It was part of the sort of forced perspective of it in his mind, as I understood it. So he was constantly telling the special effects team, "I need bigger, I need more explosions, large, bigger things." So we come to this sort of somewhat famous scene of us shooting up this street with, there's a big gun that I have, and we blow up this sort of storefronts in the street. And it's 2 a.m. I think we're still in Dallas. And so myself and a couple of the other cast members are being walked through the set by the special effects team, just so we know here's where this is and here's where that is, so that we have some sense of where the dangers are and what to be aware of. And I overhear one of the effects guys saying in passing, "He wants bigger, we'll give him bigger." Just locked it in the back of my head. So we walk through and we get ready and we're going to go shoot the scene. And I'm standing in the middle of the street. And the whole take, we had 5 cameras, 7 cameras for this thing, the special effects shot. And I'm going to pull the trigger, fire this gun, and the storefront's supposed to blow up. There's a plate glass window here of a storefront. Kurtwood Smith and I think, I'm not remembering now who was with him, right next to it, on a brick wall that was just next to the window. And I'm in the middle of the street. And just as we're getting ready to roll, the first AD is telling some looky-loos, some folks who are watching, who are up on the second story across the street on a bullhorn, "Get back, you're not safe there." And I'm a good 30 feet ahead of them, so I'm wondering what that means. Anyway, so roll it, action, go, pull the trigger, boom. I see a wall of flame coming right at me. And I turned and I ducked, and I thought it was flame, but I later watching it, must have been the heat wave from it, just go whooshing past me. And a bunch of like plate glass or safety glass hitting me, pelting me. And I turn around and I see Kurtwood Smith's leather jacket is smoking, that he was standing right next to this thing. And we continue the shot. I'm supposed to run up the street and cut. And the whole crew comes around and like, "You okay? Is everybody okay?" That kind of thing. So there's a lot of adrenaline flowing. And Verhoeven, who I loved, said to me, I'm going to do a terrible Dutch accent. Paul, normally I don't ask an actor to do something I don't do myself, but this time I think I don't do it. So that was my Robocop large explosion story. Anyway.
Did you expect it to have the impact it did? Because it was really a big movie.
It was, and no, I didn't, actually. I didn't think that it would, no.
How did it change your life?
Then I was bad guys.
Oh.
Really. That was the sort of I think, first sort of larger or noticeable role that I did that was like a bad guy. And then it was like, oh yeah, that guy was the bad guy. Let's bring him in for that. And also, it was just another look. I've had the good fortune, the interesting fortune of having different waves of sort of note in my career. Starting early, I started acting when I was 15, and in New York. And when Fame came out, obviously I got some attention for a while there, and then that sort of faded because of whatever, and in part because I stayed in New York and did a lot of theater. And then Robocop was sort of a different next swing. And then ER was sort of a swing after that.
What made you want to be an actor?
My father was a sort of an amateur actor in Philadelphia. He did local theater and that kind of stuff. So obviously it came from that, from watching him and seeing the things that he was involved with. And it's funny, I remember I saw him in a play, and I went backstage. And like many theater sets, especially in amateur theater, it was magic to me to see that the set that I saw from the audience, you go around behind it, it's completely unfinished. There was like a bridge, I remember, that from the house looked finished and complete. And I walked around, and there was something that I found so magical about that it was contributed to creating this magical world. That was the first impulse, I think, for me to be an actor. And then, of course, just liking to pretend and watching television and films that presented different worlds or different ways of life.
Can you imagine yourself in any other line of work?
Yes, yes.
Like what?
Well, I've always been interested in science. I find physics just amazing, and astronomy. Music, I should probably go first. That's something that I still play with. I've rediscovered in some ways. That or attempting to be a therapist, I think, might have been something that I, having spent so many years in it.
Yes, I can relate. What was the first, you mentioned the first acting job came along at like age 15.
Yeah.
What was it?
I'm going to answer that, but first I want to, if you don't mind, I want to ask you, do you imagine yourself in any other professions? It's a great question, but...
I suppose I do. Not anymore. You know, I'm 72 years old.
So you're just getting started.
Yeah, right. No, I can see a stop sign from where I am.
Yeah.
Can I think of anything else? Teaching would have been nice.
Yeah.
At some point.
I do some of that now. Do you do that now?
I
Have you
did that
done
a
it?
little bit at Columbia College in Chicago. They
Uh-huh.
had me in to teach a course called On-Air Presentation.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't mean to turn the spotlight on you, but I'm just curious.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it. This is supposed to be a conversation, not
Good.
not a straight interview.
Good. Was there anything else you wanted to do? Was there anything, or you fantasized about doing?
Yes, being rich and idle.
That's that's not a profession, really, but I understand the fantasy.
But I can aspire to it. It hasn't worked so far, but
Well,
I'm still waiting.
There you go. Could yeah.
Tell me about Fame.
Sure.
I must have seen that movie at least 100 times. It's one of those things where if it happens to come on, I'll watch it. I can remember going to the theater to see it a couple of times. The soundtrack I owned. And it did very well at the Oscars, I think.
The soundtrack, I think, won it did, or I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
Terrifying, mostly. Great, but somewhat terrifying. You know, I'd been working as a young actor for a couple of years prior to that, but I remember the first day of shooting, for me anyway, was the opening scene of the film, which is a shot that opened up on a photograph of Olivier as Othello and pulled back to see my character auditioning. That was fucking terrifying. This is my first time in a feature that way, and just feeling that camera move back, and that kind of carried throughout. I really enjoyed it. I wish that I had anything to do with the musical numbers. I would go when they were filming it. I would go and watch some of those because they were so much fun. There was so much energy to
They
it.
were a lot of fun, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And you had some great people to learn from and work with.
Yes.
Like Ann Mira.
Yeah. Who I stayed
Debbie
friendly
Allen.
with. Yes.
I can't remember. Albert Wolski, was that his name?
Yeah. Yes. Or was it Wolski? Yes. Who I didn't get to work with much, but I met several times. Yeah.
And you were working with a lot of young unknowns at the time.
Yeah, mostly unknowns.
It must have been a blast.
It was a lot of fun.
And you were shooting in New York.
Yeah.
On the streets.
On the streets of New York. Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
It's a fun movie to watch.
I hope it still is. Yeah. It's it was great. It was really terrifying and thrilling at the same time.
Was there ever a period when you seriously thought about walking away from acting altogether?
No, there have been periods where acting seemed to have walked away from me, but no, not really. It's such a good question. You asked earlier if there was anything I thought I might do other than this. I think it's valuable to consider I don't sound pompous. I think it's valuable in life to always just be considering other things or different perspectives. And there's there can be an addictive quality to this business, for better and very much for worse. that can be dangerous. But no, in terms of, it's the only thing I know. I mean, I'm fascinated with what's going on in there, and sometimes what's going on in here, and the opportunity to explore that within and in the service of an intent by a writer who, if it's good, is really trying to put a frame around something interesting about life. That's a really unique thing. So, no, not really, honestly, for me.
Back with more in a moment.
Sling is the live TV service that puts you in charge. Choose your plan. Orange for sports and entertainment favorites, blue for news and reality, or select for the essentials. Only pay for the stuff you actually watch. And pause your subscription anytime, because paying for TV you're not watching? That's just rude. No long-term contracts, no nonsense. Pick your plan, add what you want. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Amazon presents Laura versus fruit flies. Swarming your fruit and terrorizing your kitchen, these little freaks multiply at a rate that would make a rabbit say, yo. Chill. But Laura shopped on Amazon and saved on cleaning spray, countertop wipes, and fly traps. Hey, fruit flies, your baby boom ends here. Save the everyday with deals from Amazon.
If you'd like to be more involved with us at Still Here Hollywood, you definitely can. Just visit patreon.com/stillherehollywood. You can support us for as little as $3 a month. You can get our episodes a day before they post anywhere else. You can see what guests will be coming up and submit questions for them. You can even tell us what stars you want us to have on as guests. You'll see what goes on before and after the episode, plus exclusive behind-the-scenes info, pics, video, and more. Again, that's patreon.com/stillherehollywood. I'll tell you, at one point I did think about acting as a career.
Yeah.
But I never bring that up anymore because Chevy Chase was once interviewed, and you know, for a while I was doing criticisms at CBS here in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And we shot a promo, which now I think back on, and I think, I said something along the lines.
There's plenty of things that I think like that. Anyway, what did you say?
I said something along the lines in it of, I always wanted to be an actor or a singer or a dancer, but I can't act or sing or dance. So I'm a critic. Chevy Chase picked up on that and named me in an article with Playboy and said about that, you know, that's my feeling. That was his feeling about critics, is they can't do, so they criticize. And I never forgot that. You know,
what did you think of that?
It stung at the time. And because, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people who goes through life and thinks they're not good enough. Because that's what they were taught. Not good enough for this, not good enough for that. And I'm writing a memoir, kind of right now, and I'm re-examining all these things and why I'm where I am today. And I had retired for a while until my producer over here, Jim, called me and, you know,
good for him.
Put me in
Smart
this
move.
role.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's been good for me. I've been having a good time. Have you ever thought about retirement?
Again, no. I have friends who've sort of stopped, and I'm not there at this point. There may come a time, but if I can pick up on something you said, I think one thing you share with most of us, maybe in the world, but in this profession is, most actors have some deep pains or insecurities that this pursuit can be a perhaps fallacious attempt to counter. And if we're really lucky, we become aware of that and, not let it override the more realistic aspects of this and let it inform us about humanity and about what it is to be human. But it's a pretty common thing. I think most people who get into this business are trying to compensate for something at some point.
Some shortcomings.
Some perceived shortcoming or some asserted shortcoming. When you say, people told you, but not to be psychoanalytical with you too much, Steve, but, you were told or had the sense of not good enough or that kind of thing. Most of the actors that I know have had that experience. Either that or they just think they're better than everybody at everything. And that's
I've
a whole
encountered
different
those too.
Yes, I'm sure.
Chevy Chase, for one. Sorry.
I haven't seen that
documentary. No, I haven't. I plan on watching it.
I will
just
watch
haven't
it as
gotten
well. I
around to it.
haven't, but it's so interesting because I remember back when that was all, when he first left Saturday Night Live, and I was now in this business, and I just remember hearing the tiniest bit of information from some friends who had been at gatherings with him or parties with him, that he was, their impression of him at those things was that he was just really an unhappy guy, really a miserable kind of guy. I don't know if that's true. It sounds like there were a lot of people who had unpleasant experiences with him, but he was certainly funny as hell at SNL.
What surprised me, because I had forgotten it if I knew it, was that he left SNL like after the second season.
Yeah, it
or
was
maybe
really
even after
quick.
the first.
I think it was after the second. I may be wrong, but I think it was after the second. I think it was 2 seasons of it, at least.
He made quite an impact.
Oh, yeah.
For such a short period of time.
He was, from what I remember, he was the breakout guy in that. I mean, they were all, it was a great, talented group
Great
of people,
first
but-
cast.
Yeah.
ER. Let's talk about that for a little bit. You worked with a lot of people on ER who have gone on to have very successful careers.
Mm-hmm.
George Clooney, Noah Wiley, who we mentioned earlier. Do you keep in touch with any of them?
Noah and I are friends, and we stay in touch. Laura Innes and I stay in some contact. Laura has also directed, and so every year or two we end up having lunch and comparing notes and doing that kind of thing. Eric LaSalle, again, of course, yeah. Eric actually ended up being a director-producer on Chicago PD, and worked with him over there for a couple of years, and we stay in some contact. He's been a good friend. The others, I'm trying to think who else. Now and again, I saw Parminder recently. Juliana occasionally. We'll talk. All of them. More if they, Noah and Laura are the ones that I'm probably the most friends with, as I would say. I was very good friends with the great director and who was director-producer, Jonathan Kaplan, who just passed this year, who was just a great, passionate guy and a terrific director and my mentor as a director. So, yeah. And Chris Chulak, I actually had lunch with a couple of years ago. Anyway.
I watched a podcast this morning that you were on.
Uh-oh. Which one? Doesn't matter. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I can't remember. No. But during the podcast, you were talking about what has become the standard for the industry, and that's self-taping.
Yeah.
Auditions.
Yeah.
You said you didn't care for it. You
No, not
much
at all.
prefer to go in and do it live.
I do, and as a director, I much prefer it to have people come in live. And here's the thing. First of all, look, I came up at a time where not only did you go on audition, which had its own anxieties, of course, and stress, but casting directors hired actors to be readers at the auditions. So you were working with someone who had some skill to play the scene with. one of the first things that started going away, and I don't blame casting directors, it's whatever the costs were or whatever, but, it became just a casting assistant who was reading with you. And I thought that was a shame, because that person does not necessarily know how to catch and throw the ball. And so in terms of this now development of it feels... Okay, the things I don't like about it is that it puts the onus on the actor, first of all, to get all this gear. Though it's not expensive now, but you have to do this, and you have to set up the space, and you have to do all that stuff. And
Because you want to send in the best possible product.
yes, of course, you want to, yeah, and you have to, and there's a mystery to that. What really is, there's a whole learning curve of, you've handed off the responsibility of sort of audition production to the actor. The benefit, I suppose, is that one can choose what you can do it as many times as you want and send in what you think is your best take. That's not always true, that is your best take from what a director might think. And so, and the other thing is that the experience of just sending it off into the ether and having no experience of response or is just, it demands developing another kind of thick skin to be able to tolerate that experience of sending things off into the void. It's a different experience if you go into an audition, you're with the director, ideally, or at least the casting director, and you get a feeling of what's happening in the room. You have an experience of a quasi-audience, and you also, as an actor and a director, sorry to go on about this, but as a director particularly now.
That's why we're here, for you to go on.
Well, thank you, but anyway. But I think, here's what I think. I have often had the experience of an actor doing something in an audition. And what I discovered over the years directing is that it's more important for me to work with or give a little adjustment to an actor who I think is already on the right path, or what I think of as the right path, or what I'm looking for in this character. You can have, if you have, 30 people audition, half of them may have just be utterly wrong for it, and maybe 10 of the others would be kind of right, and then maybe 5 are kind of really in the ballpark you're already going in. And as a director, you're going to want to lean towards the people whose instincts are already taking you where you think this is going to go, or if they surprise you with something you think is good, that kind of thing. But here's the thing. I want to then give somebody an adjustment, because I want to find out, one, do we speak the same language? What do they do if I say, give me a little shade of this? Do they give me that shade, or do they go way off over here? Or is it repeatable? Because I've also had the situation of going on set with someone who I've picked from a tape, and they can't do it again. They did it, they got lucky in that audition, but they can't repeat what they're doing. So now it's a whole different thing of having to work with. And the other thing I don't like is this is a collaborative process. And casting is so important. And so having that experience, of relationship, and having that sense of somebody in the room. Again, I don't want to be purist about this. I've adapted to it as a director and as an actor, and I get the convenience, certainly, and certain values of self-taping. But my concern, this is going to get into a bigger thing. I have concerns about any of these things that give us a greater and greater experience of some remove and isolation or separation. And particularly in something that I believe is such a collaborative process, that experience becomes more of an obstacle to where I want to go if I'm working as an actor or a director. You know what I'm saying? I want to feel community. And especially as we go into, don't get me started on AI and all that kind of stuff, because I'll go for a while on that one. I just think there's an insidious thing that has happened in our society, even with social media and all these kinds of things, that wasn't really apparent when all this stuff started coming into our society, which I think very subtly and insidiously and have contributed to now a very, very drastic balkanization of each of us and into these silos. Here's another, okay, I'm going off on this, but I know a lot of young people who the last thing they want to do is actually pick up the phone and call someone.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone go actually talk to someone in person.
Some old people don't like doing that either.
Well, that's another story. But yes. But here's the thing, though. We grew up, those of us who grew up without this, some of us who are older now, I believe what I've discovered is that I think there is a certain challenge to human interaction. And there's that we didn't even recognize because we grew up doing that. And when you have an opportunity to avoid that, it's a muscle that doesn't get developed. So there's a friction that we learn to manage if we're talking face to face. That becomes prohibitive for someone who's not used to doing it. But the benefit of that is actual connection and interaction. And the more things that limit that experience of human connection, the more things that minimize that, I think are detrimental to us as a society, and I think contributes to the level of polarization that we experience as a society. That's my opinion, but it is my opinion. So I think that there's a tremendously important thing about doing everything we can to be in a room with people, to be in the same space physically. These things are all good. Writing letters is a good thing to be able to do. Ways of communicating, emails, video conference, all that stuff's great. In context, when it becomes your whole way of communicating with the world, or your primary way of communicating with the world, then I think that there's a very great danger to our society, and I think it's playing out in our world right now. Honestly, I hear myself and I think, well, it sounds pretty grandiose. I know.
This public service announcement has been
exactly.
brought to you by. No, I agree. with
On the
you.
other hand, what the hell do I know? But my take. Anyhow,
and I think it's a good take too. Did the stability of being on a long-running series change how you approached your life outside of acting?
oh God, yeah, it was the greatest experience of my life. When I was on ER, you mean? It was great. Look, I came on that show, I think it was the third or fourth season. It was the biggest show on television. I played a character that, I worked a couple of days a week. I never had to push the plot. If my character was there was some emotional juice going on. And then to have a job that was, for a time, very reliable, of course, it allowed me to start a family and have some sort of stability and security in a business that by its nature absolutely is not. We're professional gamblers. That's the nature of it. So yeah, it was. I really valued and enjoyed it while I was there.
Did being part of such an iconic series, I hate the word iconic because it's everywhere. Nothing's iconic because of it.
Everything's iconic.
Yes.
Nothing's iconic. Yeah.
Did it change the way you look at things and you looked at the business?
To be really honest, yes, I certainly learned a lot doing that in that way and got different perspective on this business and success or failures, but that developed over time anyway. It was great to be, well, okay. When you ask me that, what I think is it was great to be on a show that was so popular, and for all the benefits of that, but also where one could work so consistently and one could consider the experience of success and fame and popularity and the work itself and what it meant and what it didn't mean and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was great laboratory that way in that sense for that. But on the other hand, because I started so young and because I had some work that brought me into the public eye a bit early on, I'd had experiences of the ups and downs of that and what it meant and what it didn't mean. So I had some perspective, I guess, already on that. I had some sense of what it meant already and what it didn't mean. Very often, you see actors who achieve some great success, popularity, and it can be very disorienting, and it can be it can distort one's sense of the world and oneself and one's place in the world and life and all that kind of stuff. I benefited from having been through some ups and downs already by that time, that I was really grateful for it, but I think it didn't have the distorting, at least I hope. Well, I can say is it didn't have the distorting effect on me that it would have had I not had the ups and downs I'd already had, the experience I'd already had.
Are you an Eagles fan?
I was growing up, but I'm not. I don't watch football.
Oh.
I used to, but I don't really anymore. I'm happy for them, but no. Are you?
I'm a Bears fan.
I imagine.
You died dramatically.
Many times.
in
many
more ways
things.
than one.
No. Actually, I don't know where you're going, but I just went.
The helicopter crash.
Yes. Well, there are actually, as a side note, I don't know if it's still out there somewhere, but somebody put together a little mini reel called "And Paul McCrane Dies at the End." And it was this series of just gruesome deaths that characters that I'd had in things, I think including ER at that time. So, yes, it was a dramatic death on the ER. Yeah, the helicopter that took the character's arm came back to, it was his Moby Dick, came back to get the rest of them.
Oof. ER seemed like such a hectic set, just from outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
No.
Well, a finely tuned machine?
Yeah. Impressively finely tuned. I mean, there was a lot of pressure and there was a lot of, but even walking onto it, coming into it when I did, it was just such a great confluence of a lot of great people who really cared. Here's the thing that was great about that. Sorry, this is a tangent, but when I came on that show, it was the biggest show on television, and by far. And any one of those people could have been monsters in terms of ego or that kind of thing in the cast or in the crew. Nobody was. Any stuff like that got batted down really quickly. Everybody knew that they were lucky. They got on one that worked. So people came to work, and had fun, but worked. There was pressure because, especially all the oneers that became a normal thing, Steadicam single shots. There's a lot of pressure to get the timing right and do these things right and that kind of stuff. But people, anyone who stayed on that show got up to speed pretty quick. I certainly had to, but got up to speed to be able to work with that in that environment. And it was really fun to work with so many people who were so good at their jobs, so dedicated at their jobs, and I mean cast and crew, and who could pull that stuff off and not have it be crazily stressful. It was exciting and challenging and fun. Some of those shots, man, I just think about some of the shots that some of the directors did that were, Chris Chulak used to do, and many directors used to do these circular shots around, like in a trauma room or that kind of thing, handheld, where the camera operator's just walking around and you're catching the lines at different times. The operator's having to swing around to know where, the operators had to know the scene so they know who to swing to at different times while they're walking, while they're doing that. That's an extraordinary skill. And the camera focus puller that's doing that at the same time, and all the actors trying to be aware of what's happening or not, but not make it too conscious so that they're engaged in the scene. Just extraordinary.
Paul, are you happy with the way your career has unfolded?
Yes and no, like everybody else. I mean, the disappointments I've had, I've been able to mostly learn from, I hope. Would I like... Boy, that's an impossible thing. I've been extraordinarily lucky compared to the majority of people in this business. I started in theater. I continued working in theater. I worked in television and film. I've transitioned. I actually don't like to say that word because people think of me often as someone who used to act, and I still think of myself as an actor, but I've spent most of the last 20 years directing, and I was able to make that transition, which is something I always thought I'd do in the theater, but I was surprised that I pursued it. I didn't stumble into it. I pursued it hard. So I have things that I wish had happened that maybe, there are things, I guess I would say that I wish I had, at this moment, access to roles that interest me that I don't at the moment, some roles. But if I get any perspective at all on this, I'm extraordinarily lucky. Extraordinarily lucky.
We'll be back in a moment.
Amazon presents Laura versus Fruit Flies. Hide your bananas. These winged demons came to your kitchen to do two things: eat fruit and they're all out of fruit. But thankfully, Laura shopped on Amazon and saved on cleaning spray, countertop wipes, and fly traps. Hey, fruit flies, your baby boom ends here. Save the everyday with deals from Amazon.
When people recognize you and come up to you at a restaurant or on the street, what is the thing, the project, the work they most frequently bring up?
I'm shocked how many people recognize me from different things. Still, fame. I mean, I was 18, I'm 65, but people recognize me still a fair amount from that. ER, of course. Even Shawshank Redemption, Robocop.
I forgot about Shawshank.
Yeah, I didn't have much to do in it. I mean, it was very supporting. I mean, I had worked with Frank Darabont in something else prior, and he invited me to come be a part of that, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. But I'm thrilled to have had anything to do with that film. I think it's an exceptional movie. That's one of those movies that I am like, if I'm flipping channels and it's on, I'll stop and watch that, and a lot of people feel that way. Yeah, so it's surprising to me. Some people remember I get recognized for a single episode of the X-Files that I did, which surprised me. Honestly, it's what has surprised me is how much of the gamut of the things that I've done that I get recognized for.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It's very nice. Yeah, the overwhelming majority of the time, it's very nice.
Do you enjoy directing performances more or shaping the overall story?
As a director?
Yes.
Oh, wow. It's not a one or the other. I love working with actors. I love the challenge of telling the story. It's been an interesting thing to develop over time, the recognition that directing is so much more, it's a managerial position than an expressive position, where acting is more, I would say, that. If I had to draw, I mean, there's lots of creativity in directing, of course. But it is so much about managing your day and managing and developing, hopefully, ongoing working to develop the skills to deal with the individual before you. And that's the actor, and that's the department head, or everyone on set, because you're dealing with people all day long. And my personal interest is in working with people, not dictating to people. Although one has to, I mean, there's a captain. You got to be able to assume that role. It's not a one or the other for me. I love, as I said, I love working with actors. I love trying to offer things, and there's nothing more satisfying for me than to make a suggestion or give a direction to an actor that opens something up for them. That's the most exciting thing. And that just where a little sort of just blossom happens on camera. That's just incredibly satisfying. It's also really gratifying to design a really interesting shot that works. Largely, though, it's a lot about all day long, continuously. Over time, for me, there's a continuous, not unlike what your producer's doing right now and what you're doing. Managing the house. It's going, what do I need to do? Do I need to push this forward? Do I need to step back? Do we need to, how much time do we have? Are they on time? Are they not on time? Okay, now let's focus on the scene. And that calculation all day long, including, as a television director over time, learning, okay, I have so much work I have to get done today. It's my responsibility to get it done. It's not my money, and I take that seriously. People are spending a lot of money on this, not my money. So, do I have time to go one more take? If I go one more take, am I likely to get a better performance out of this, or a cleaner shot out of this? Or is it likely to be about the same in a different direction? Do I need that different direction? I already know I'm going to cut together, and your first, third, and seventh lines are great. And I know I have your fourth and sixth lines in another take, so I can cut back and forth if I need to. Do I have that fifth line? That kind of conscious and unconscious calculation happens all day long. So there's a gratification in developing a certain degree of mastery or skill with that. But it wasn't the first thing I was interested in, to be honest. It took me a long time to recognize how managerial it is, and to see it that way. As I've enjoyed it more and more. But yeah, it's a different animal than acting. Here's one thing I used to say that's still really true. Directing on television, anyway, is sort of closer to acting on stage than acting on film is. And by that I mean, if you are acting in a play, in the first week of rehearsals, you spend the week convinced that they were wrong to have cast you, and you know nothing, and you have no real connection to the character, or you don't understand what the play's about, and you really should just go home and work in a gas station. And then around the second week, and the only thing to do during that time is just feed information in, putting ingredients in the pot, and the second week things start to simmer a little bit, and some ideas start to come, and that kind of thing. And then hopefully, if you're lucky, you start to feel some development of mastery. But there's nothing more painful than that first few days or week where it just feels like there's nothing coming and you feel completely inept. And one has to learn to tolerate that. And then, of course, when you get into performance, curtains up and you are running, and that's it. There's no, let me stop and go back. The ball's in your hands. Similarly, directing, the beginning of prep is a similar painful, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I'm not feeling a connection, not feeling any ideas. So it becomes about feeding in information, in my experience. And then as prep develops, you start to get some ideas and that kind of thing. And one of the things I miss about acting auditions is people reveal things about the script when you're auditioning actors. They show you things that you didn't even realize they were there, that kind of stuff. Anyway, and then you get into shooting, and the actors get, let me do it again. I don't really. In terms of, similar to an actor on stage having the ball in your hands, I have to get this work done during the day. That's my responsibility. It doesn't always happen. But my job is to do that. So if you're an adrenaline junkie, be an actor on stage or be a director in television and film. That's the similarity there.
Do you ever feel like your heads are going to explode?
All the time. All the time. Right now.
Have you ever been accused of overthinking things?
Oh, God, yes. Holy crap, yes. Yeah. 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 And I have the disease of my mind often works faster than my mouth can keep up with it. So I have learned and worked really hard that when I'm directing, because there's so much adrenaline and so many ideas going, to sort of slow down and connect to make sure I'm actually talking to people. People who work with me may say, yeah, he's still not good at that. But I hope they do. But it's something I work on a lot, because when I started directing, I raced so much. I had so many ideas going on that it was very challenging for me to communicate effectively, I would say. I hope I've gotten better at that.
Which role taught you the most about yourself?
Most about myself? Oof. It's the same role that taught me the most about acting, and that is when I was in my 20s, I had the extraordinary good fortune of being in The Iceman Cometh with Jason Robards and Barney Hughes and Donald Moffat and a cast of terrific actors. And it was directed by Jose Quintero, who had directed, for those of you who don't even know who these people are, or I think it was in the 50s, Jason did a production of Iceman that Jose directed at Circle in the Square, and that put him on the map. That production put both of them really on the map, made them. So this was a revival in that sense. And I played a character called Don Parrott. Sorry, Donald Moffat was in the show as well, and I was just derailed from the word go. I struggled mightily. I was so excited, but also massively intimidated by being in this group of people, that I made every mistake you could make as an actor. I didn't prepare effectively before going into rehearsal out of fear. I didn't realize it, but I was like, at a minimum, I should have been reading the play every day in the weeks before rehearsal, just to absorb it, just to take it in, just to spend that time of not knowing and tolerate that. I was young and didn't know enough, and then was so caught up in panic about an idea of what I wanted to achieve, or an idea about what I wanted to display, some idea of displaying great acting. I wanted to be a great actor. That I didn't do the work to do it, not because I wasn't willing to do the work, I was just terrified. So I didn't build a good foundation. On top of that, that particular character, as Jason convinced me later on, is very problematic. You could analyze it, but that's beside the point. I just failed, and my efforts were weak. So what happened is, my performance was wildly inconsistent because I didn't have a handle on it. And this is extraordinarily self-flattering to comfort myself this way, but there's an apocryphal story of Olivier doing, I think it was Richard III, and he apparently one night gave an extraordinary performance, and friends who had come backstage heard him smashing the furniture in his dressing room, and finally opened the door, and they said, well, Larry, what are you doing? You were brilliant. And he said, I know, I just don't know why. I don't know how I did it. The lack of control, the lack of the reins. So I certainly didn't have anything like his brilliance, but I certainly had that not having a handle on it. And the New York Times came, and I know the specific performance that the New York Times came to see. And I know it. What often happens is that during the press doesn't anymore come on opening night and just review that performance. They'll come in a series of preview performances in the week of opening, so they're not all seeing the same performance. And I happen to know the night the New York Times came because I asked afterwards, and I had tried something that night, and it was a radical thing that I tried in the performance. But the truth I had to face was I didn't know if it worked or not. I just really didn't have a handle on it. So opening night came, and I got singled out as giving the only really weak performance in an otherwise good to great performances in the show. And it was devastating. But it taught me something I knew intellectually but really learned, is that I need to take responsibility for my own work. Critics are going to like it, they're not going to like it, that's what it is. My journey, it's not about this play or this moment or this performance. It's about becoming a better and better and better, more and more and more refined actor. So gave me that context. And I have to say, Jason Robards was extraordinarily kind, because the next day he gave me, there's an interview of, I think it was George Plimpton, did these interviews called Writers at Work. And he interviewed James Dickey. And James Dickey, who wrote Deliverance and was a poet and did all these other things, it was about critics. It was about a take on critics. And basically said, whatever, if what I remember him saying, what Dickey said was, I don't tend to read critics. Maybe if somebody tells me that this critic thought I'm the second coming, maybe I'll read it. But otherwise, I don't want to take out my energies on useless hatred. It's not going to do me any good. My course is set. This is what I do. And if it's a lifelong mistake, it won't be the first one that's been made. But the notion of taking responsibility and ownership of one's own work, and developing the ability to let people think what they will, I think is an extremely beneficial thing for any actor to continue to work on. We need to, because we all want approval. Everybody likes that. Everybody likes to be applauded. But that was the show that, for me, taught me how to work because of how poorly I had worked. So what I ended up doing during that was, once and the show ran for a while, was I realized two things. The worst happened. I was in Broadway show with the master interpreters of this great writer's work, O'Neill's work, and I was singled out as giving the only weak performance in it. That's kind of the actor's nightmare. But whether I'd gotten a great review or a terrible review, come Tuesday, I still had to go back to work. It wasn't done. In the theater, you go back, I have to do another performance. And so having that experience and living through that was the most valuable thing for me, both as a person and as an actor, to realize that my work, it's nice, but the work is this, what's before me. And what I ended up doing in that particular situation is every night, I got very methodical about it. Because I had built such a poor foundation, it's very, very hard, as Udo would say, to then go back and try and rebuild it when the train's already running down the track. But that's what I had to do. And I would pick, at some point it was just I'd pick a moment in the play each night. And try to figure something to work on there, try to find footing, try to figure that out. And then after the show, I'd sit and write about it and try to analyze, did it work, did it not work, that kind of thing, and just built it bit by bit like that. And eventually I got a greater handle on the character, and that was great, but it taught me how to work. I wanted to say one other thing about Jason Robards. We did the show in Washington before we brought it to New York, and I was lost. I was utterly lost. And Jason and I were off stage at the same time for part of the play. And one night I worked up the courage and I went over knocked on his dressing room door. His door's open. He was sitting, I think, doing the crossword puzzle. And he said, "Hey, Paul, how you doing?" I said, "Okay, you got a minute, Jason?" He said, Yeah, what's up?" And I said, "This moment in the play," and I described this moment. And he said, he looked a little dubious. He looked at me and said, "Yeah." And he said, "You think I'm doing too much there? I'm 24, And he looks up at me. I'm going to cry. I'm so grateful to this man. And he looks up at me and he takes me in for a beat. And he just went, I felt so respected. He didn't bullshit me. He didn't say, "Oh, no, Paul, you're great," or, he didn't do any of that. And what it made me know is that he wouldn't have said that if he didn't think I had the potential to do better. It dispelled so much of the, at least for a while, of the awful feeling of hopelessness I was having trying to do this character. And that was in Washington. That was before New York, before the Times interview. So it was still, I was still lost. But it gave me, in a way, the confidence to keep working on it. And just the feeling of respect that he would treat me enough like a colleague to be honest with me. Incredibly grateful to him. He was amazing, I have to say. I don't know how well you know the play or if you know the play, but there's this, I think in the Penguin paperback, I think it's 3 pages of single-spaced, this enormous speech he has at the end of the play. Maybe more pages. And we did 6 shows a week. We didn't do matinees because the production was 5 hours long. It was the complete show. And he would, there were 2 or 3 performances a week where he was relying on technique. You could feel that. Still great. The audience nobody was going to go, "Ugh, terrible performance." But being I was on stage listening to that speech. And a good 2 or 3 times out of the week, though, the hair on the back of my neck would go up when he was doing that speech. It was his work was so brilliant and so in it, in ways that it was just thrilling to be exposed to on a regular basis. He was an amazing actor. Anyway, I've rambled on about...
Some of us are built for compliments rather than criticism. I'm one of them. Criticism is not in my whatever.
You mean you don't respond well to criticism?
Right.
Yes.
I take it too personally. I take it all too personally.
It is. Well, we all do. How could we not? But the great, a friend of mine at the time, also I'm very grateful to, Chris Markentel, gave me a book after that Times review came out called No Turn Unstoned, which is a collection of bad reviews that people got, and the sense of community and the sense of dispelling this requirement I guess placed on myself to be something instead of becoming something, to come out to already be accomplished when I wasn't. I was a journeyman actor learning. I was a, still young actor. It freed me. So both as a person, to go back to your original question, that was a seminal experience for me in just sort of coming to that realization. And as an actor, it absolutely taught. I mean, from then on, I knew how to approach work. I knew how to take some of the things I'd been learning in class or thinking about and actually apply them, learned how to apply them, having failed so terribly. It was great experience.
When you are done doing something, do you remember the dialogue that you had to do? I mean, like from ER, could you quote?
The only line I can quote, the only really thing I can quote, there are a couple things I probably remember, but one is a term for a procedure called cholidoko jejunostomy. I don't even remember what it is. The word took up the entire script line, but it was such a bizarre, I mean, if you saw how it was spelled, I had to memorize that. I don't even remember what it was. But no, generally I don't remember. Other than things like, I mean, in Robocop, the what became a popular sort of meme kind of thing, though they didn't exist then, of I like it, was sort of that I remember. And I have to give credit to that line wasn't my, I didn't come up with that out of nowhere. Actually, it was a boom operator who referenced Chevy Chase from a film where he said something like I like it, or something like, maybe he did a line of coke in a film or something, and I hadn't seen it, but it gave me it triggered something in me to say the line and do the line as I did. So I don't remember that man's name, but I owe him that for that iconic reading.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Steve.
I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you. I really have too. I hope anybody who watches it enjoys it. But I'm
sure
thrilled
they
to
will. I'm
thrilled to have been asked. So my 2 cents. Thanks.
Okay. Maybe that's the name of the podcast. Should be My 2 cents.
My 2 cents.
Still Here Hollywood is a production of the Still Here Network. All things technical run by Justin Zangerly. Theme music by Brian Sanashin. And executive producer is Jim Lichtenstein.
Amazon presents Laura versus Fruit Flies. Swarming your fruit and terrorizing your kitchen, these little freaks multiply at a rate that would make a rabbit say, yo. Chill. But Laura shopped on Amazon and saved on cleaning spray, countertop wipes, and fly traps. Hey, fruit flies, your baby boom ends here. Save the everyday with deals from Amazon.